people paint pictures of me, and I don't have enough walls to hang all those pictures on. But the fact that they do it is a real compliment.
Clint Walker practically defined the American Western. For millions of TV viewers, he wasn't just a cowboy, he was the cowboy. When Walker took on the role of Cheyenne Bodie in 1955, television westerns were still finding their footing, and he helped shape the genre for years to come. However, once the cameras stopped rolling, Clint's life looked a lot different than his iconic on-screen roles. While the world saw an unbreakable hero, the real Clint Walker quietly disappeared from public view. It wasn't until after he died in 2018 that everything began to quietly unravel. And now, his daughter is finally ready to share the truth with the world. Chapter 1. Clint Walker's Final Days. Clint Walker passed away on May 21, 2018, almost 2 decades after his final on-screen appearance as the voice of Nick Nitro in the 1998 film Small Soldiers. After that, the veteran actor chose to live a life of privacy, where no one really knew what was going on behind the scenes. Of course, that never diminished the impact of his work, and when the news of his passing came out, Hollywood mourned their Western icon, the man whose towering presence defined an entire generation. For many fans, the announcement felt strangely subdued. There were no dramatic interviews from his loved ones, no public goodbyes or elaborate tributes, just a simple confirmation that the actor, who had lived larger than life, was gone at the age of 90. Soon enough, though, his daughter, Valerie Walker, a retired commercial airline pilot and one of the first women to fly for a major airline, broke her silence and revealed exactly what her father's final days were like. Valerie shared that the actor had died of congestive heart failure at a hospital near his longtime home in Grass Valley, California, a small, wooded town far removed from the soundstages and studio backlots where he had once made television history. Clint Walker's connection to the American West wasn't just on-screen. In fact, it ran much deeper. While many actors during the 1950s and 1960s embraced the fast-paced celebrity lifestyle, Walker seemed to go in the opposite direction. He was drawn to the simplicity of nature and the solitude of rural life. Grass Valley became his sanctuary, a place where he could reflect, write, and just be himself. Valerie spoke on behalf of the entire Walker family and described his final days not as tragic, but as a testament to his endurance. Valerie shared that Clint was a warrior who fought till the very end. Now, she wasn't speaking metaphorically. She revealed that his later years, where he backed away from the spotlight, were shaped by discipline, resilience, and commitment to self-control. Even as his body began to slow down, he got up every day and made healthy choices instead of drowning in sorrow. According to Valerie, he followed a disciplined lifestyle, avoided red meat, favored foods like chicken and salmon, and maintained routines that prioritized longevity and strength. This wasn't about vanity or clinging to the past. It was about control. Those close to him knew that his death wasn't sudden. Congestive heart failure is often a long, progressive condition, and Walker had been managing health challenges quietly, without drawing attention or sympathy. True to form, he never allowed illness to define him publicly. And that silence was intentional. After retiring from acting, Clint Walker made a conscious decision to disappear from Hollywood life. He stopped attending industry events, declined interviews, and avoided retrospectives. He didn't want to be remembered as a relic of another era, or paraded out for nostalgia's sake. Instead, he lived quietly with his wife, Susan Cavallari Walker, whom he had married in 1997 and remained with until his death. The two settled into a life far removed from fame, surrounded by nature and routine rather than cameras and crowds. Those who knew him understood that Clint Walker never saw himself as a celebrity. He saw himself as a worker, someone who showed up, did his job, and went home. He never wanted fame to define him. Instead, he wanted people to remember his characters more than they remembered him. This mindset goes all the way back to his early life. Chapter 2. The Hollywood Breakthrough. Clint Walker, born Norman Eugene Walker in 1927. From an early age, he learned that nothing was guaranteed and everything had to be earned. His parents married less than a year before his birth and eventually went their own separate ways when Clint was still a young boy. His mother, Gladys Henrietta Walker, was an immigrant born in what is now Croatia, part of the former Austro-Hungarian Empire. She came from a deeply religious Moravian evangelical background, raised in a culture that valued discipline, hard work, and emotional restraint. Those values quietly carried over into Clint's upbringing. His father, Paul Arnold Walker, worked as a laborer for Shell Oil, physically demanding, unstable work that reflected the realities of working-class America during the Great Depression. Money was tight, and nothing came easily. Clint wasn't an only child. He had a fraternal twin sister, Lucy, as well as a half-sister. Growing up alongside siblings in a fractured household forced him to mature early. Everyone had to pull their weight to survive. By his teenage years, he was already working factory jobs, riverboats, and oil fields. Not out of ambition, but necessity. That early exposure to hard labor shaped the way he viewed the world, and, ultimately, himself. By the age of 17, Walker made a defining decision. He joined the United States Merchant Marine for some sense of stability and purpose. It was a hard life, but it suited him. The structure appealed to his sense of order, and the physical demands matched the strength he had already begun to develop. After leaving the Merchant Marine, Walker drifted across the country the way many young men did in post-war America, taking whatever work he could find. He did all sorts of odd jobs in Brownwood, Texas, Long Beach, California, and Las Vegas, Nevada, always moving from one place to another. In Las Vegas, he worked as a doorman at the Sands Hotel, standing watch at one of the most glamorous venues in the country. Ironically, Clint Walker remained completely invisible there. But little did the stars walking into the hotel know that one day he would be one of them. That job at Sands quietly changed Walker's life. That's where casting directors and producers began to notice him. Everyone would tell him the same thing: "You should be in movies." But Walker didn't immediately jump at the idea. However, things changed when he caught the attention of one of Hollywood's most powerful talent agents, Henry Wilson. Wilson was infamous for discovering and reshaping young male stars during the 1950s. He was known for crafting marketable personas, changing names, altering appearances, and packaging actors to fit Hollywood's rigid expectations. Rock Hudson was his most famous client, and Clint Walker would soon become another project. When Wilson signed Walker, he immediately decided that Norman Eugene Walker didn't sound like a leading man. He renamed him Jet Norman, a sharper, more modern name that fit the industry's obsession with image over authenticity. For a brief period, Walker went along with it. He understood that Hollywood played by its own rules, and if this was the price of entry, he was willing to pay it, temporarily at least. But even then, Walker resisted anything that didn't feel like him. He didn't want to adopt a new personality or perform a version of himself that didn't come naturally. This tension defined Walker's early Hollywood years. His first on-screen appearance came in 1954, when he landed an uncredited role as Tarzan in the Bowery Boys comedy Jungle Gents. The role was brief and forgettable, but it served a purpose. It proved that Walker could move on camera, take direction, and physically command a scene. More importantly, it placed him inside the system. Chapter 3. The Tide Begins to Turn. Soon after, Walker heard that legendary director Cecil B. DeMille was searching for physically imposing men for his upcoming biblical epic, The Ten Commandments. It was exactly the kind of opportunity that could change a career overnight, or end it just as quickly. Walker managed to secure a meeting with DeMille, but fate tested him on the way. While driving to the studio, he stopped to help a woman stranded with a flat tire. By the time he arrived at Paramount, he was late, and that's where things could have gone terribly wrong. When Walker finally stood before the legendary director, DeMille called him out for being late. When Walker explained what had happened, he had no idea what was coming next. Turns out that the woman was actually DeMille's secretary, and just like that, Walker was cast in the role of the captain of the Pharaoh's Guard. The role was small, but it proved to be the lucky break that the actor needed. The success he received afterward helped Walker come to the decision that he didn't want to be known as Jet Norman. So, he chose his own identity, a name that felt more authentic to him. That choice mattered in more ways than one can imagine. In an industry built on illusion, Clint Walker refused to disappear behind a manufactured persona. He didn't play the game the way others did. He didn't socialize excessively or chase publicity, and he certainly didn't allow himself to be reshaped beyond recognition. That's what made him stand out. Studio executives noticed that Walker wasn't trying to be anything other than himself, and Hollywood began to understand where he truly belonged. By the mid-1950s, Warner Brothers was preparing something new, a television western unlike anything that had come before it. The show would be called Cheyenne, and everything depended on casting the right lead. An hour-long series that demanded a lead who could carry moral weight, physical authority, and emotional restraint. They didn't want a star. They wanted a man with a commanding presence. And when Walker stepped into that audition room, he completely owned it. Now, Warner Brothers auditioned dozens of actors. Some were already established stars. Others were studio favorites. Clint Walker later recalled that nearly every leading man available in Hollywood was tested for the role over the course of several days. Standing among them, Walker didn't believe he had a real chance. On his first day of testing, nerves got the best of him. He felt out of place, surrounded by actors he had grown up watching on screen. But on the second day, he walked in there with the swagger that would go on to define him for ages. Jack Warner himself reviewed the actor's audition and knew that Walker was born to play Cheyenne Bodie, and TV westerns were never the same after that. Cheyenne was a drifter in the post-Civil War American West, a man shaped by loss and survival. Orphaned at a young age and raised by the Cherokee, Cheyenne moved through the frontier as an outsider, someone who belonged everywhere and nowhere at the same time. That backstory alone added layers rarely seen in television heroes at the time, and because Clint could relate to parts of Cheyenne, he played the character with the kind of sincerity that you just don't see on TV today. And audiences responded immediately. Cheyenne premiered on ABC in 1955 and became an instant success. Viewers were drawn to the character's moral clarity, his compassion for the vulnerable, and his refusal to abuse power. In a genre often defined by gunfights and quick justice, Cheyenne Bodie had a conscience. The show's success reshaped television programming. It proved that audiences were willing to commit to longer, more complex stories. Networks quickly followed suit, launching a wave of hour-long westerns that borrowed heavily from Cheyenne's formula. Series like Maverick, Sugarfoot, Bronco, and later Have Gun, Will Travel all owed a creative debt to what Clint Walker helped establish. Generations of actors followed in his footsteps. Clint Eastwood, for example, was undoubtedly influenced by Walker's portrayal of a stoic, morally complex cowboy. Where Eastwood's man with no name in a fistful of dollars had more of an edge, there was no doubt that his character drew inspiration from the quiet strength of Walker's Cheyenne. Similarly, stars like Sam Elliott and Tom Selleck would later echo Walker's no-nonsense approach to the Western hero. But it all began with Clint Walker's Cheyenne Bodie. However, in 1958, at the height of the show's popularity, Clint Walker made a move that stunned Hollywood. He walked away. Walker went on strike in a contract dispute with Warner Brothers after he realized that the studio was undervaluing his contribution to the show's success. While he was gone, the studio attempted to replace him with another actor, introducing a new character named Bronco Lane, played by Ty Hardin, but the audience rejected it. Ratings plummeted, and it became clear that Cheyenne without Clint Walker wasn't Cheyenne at all. Warner Brothers eventually renegotiated Walker's contract, and he returned to the series in 1959. The compromise led to the creation of a separate show for Ty Hardin, while Walker resumed his rightful place as Cheyenne Bodie. The moment was significant. In an era when studios held near total control over actors, Clint Walker had proven that a television star could push back and win. Cheyenne ultimately ran for 7 seasons, producing 103 episodes before ending in 1962. By then, Clint Walker was a cultural fixture. His image as Cheyenne Bodie became inseparable from the idea of the Western hero itself. During his time on Cheyenne, Clint Walker was known not only for his commanding presence on screen, but also for his incredible work ethic behind the scenes. One of the scenes in the show required Clint and his co-star to film in a pit of freezing cold water, which was meant to look like quicksand. The water was filled with sawdust and oats to achieve the right effect. The worst part was that the pit wasn't heated, and Clint and his co-star were barefoot in that ice-cold water for over an hour and a half. As if that wasn't tough enough, the crew couldn't do much to help them stay warm, so they had to stand in front of hot stage lights between takes, just trying to thaw out. But despite the freezing conditions, Clint stuck it out. He was never one to complain. He had that old-school professionalism that defined his approach to his craft. It's this kind of dedication to the show that really sets Clint apart and proves just how far he was willing to go for the role. Chapter 4. Life after Cheyenne. And yet, as successful as he was on Cheyenne, it came with a cost. Walker would later acknowledge that Cheyenne defined him in ways he couldn't escape. Casting directors struggled to see him as anything else. Audiences expected the same moral authority in every role. And while Walker appreciated what Cheyenne gave him, he also understood its limitations. That tension would shape the next phase of his career, where he would deliberately seek out roles that challenged expectations and proved he was more than a television cowboy. After 8 years on Cheyenne, Jack Warner invited Clint to lunch for the first time. During this meeting, Warner offered Clint either a new TV show or more episodes of Cheyenne, but Clint expressed his desire to take a break from TV and pursue feature films. This conversation led to the end of his run on Cheyenne, but it was clear that Walker respected Warner and parted on good terms. Now, Clint Walker revealed that he didn't truly realize the extent of his fame until after Cheyenne ended. It was only when he started doing memorabilia shows and meeting fans that he realized how impactful his role as Cheyenne Bodie had been to people. He received many letters from fans, especially women, telling him how Cheyenne had been a father figure or a role model during tough times, such as following the loss of a father or after a divorce. These fans, many of whom were grandparents by the time he met them, expressed how they now shared Cheyenne with their own grandchildren, and that helped him truly understand the legacy he had created. After that, the question was, could Clint Walker become something more? The great thing is that he didn't rush the transition. Instead of chasing leading roles that mirrored his television persona, he took a deliberate, sometimes unconventional path. He began appearing in a mix of television dramas and supporting film roles, quietly testing the waters beyond the Western genre. One of his early post-Cheyenne appearances came on The Lucy Show, where his sheer physical presence contrasted sharply with the light, comedic tone of the series. He also took on a dramatic role in Kraft's suspense theater, appearing in the episode Portrait of an Unknown Man, alongside a young Robert Duvall, an early sign that Walker was willing to step into more serious, character-driven material. In 1964, Walker surprised audiences with a supporting role in the romantic comedy Send Me No Flowers, starring Rock Hudson and Doris Day. It was a notable departure from the stoic Western hero audiences expected. They saw how seamlessly he could blend into an ensemble, deliver dry humor, and soften his screen persona without losing credibility. But it was Frank Sinatra who would offer Walker one of his most meaningful opportunities. In 1965, Sinatra cast Clint Walker in the lead role of None But the Brave, a World War II drama that marked the only film Sinatra ever directed. The project was ambitious and unusual, focusing on the humanity shared by American and Japanese soldiers stranded on a remote island. For Walker, the role was a chance to lead a film that emphasized restraint, moral ambiguity, and quiet authority, all the qualities that had defined his best work on Cheyenne. Though the film didn't become a major box office hit, it earned respect for its sincerity and thematic depth. It also cemented Walker's reputation as a dependable professional actor in serious material. That same year, he starred in Maya, a family adventure film shot in India. The project showed Walker's willingness to take risks and work outside the familiar Hollywood system, even if the results were modest. Then came the role that changed everything. Chapter 5: The Second Act. In 1967, Clint Walker was cast as Samson Posey in The Dirty Dozen, a war film that would become one of the most iconic ensemble movies of the era. Unlike the stoic heroes he had played before, Posey was meek, soft-spoken, and emotionally fragile. Convicted of killing, Posey was portrayed as gentle rather than threatening, a stark contrast to Walker's other roles and his otherwise persona. The performance stunned everyone. In one of the film's most memorable scenes, Lee Marvin's character deliberately provokes Posey, pushing Walker to explode with raw, uncontrolled rage before being swiftly subdued. The moment shattered expectations and proved Walker could deliver emotional volatility as convincingly as physical strength. The Dirty Dozen was a massive success, both critically and commercially. Surrounded by heavyweights like Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, and Charles Bronson, Walker more than held his own. The film permanently altered how Hollywood viewed him. He was no longer just a television cowboy, he was a serious film actor. Clint later went on to share that his character in The Dirty Dozen was actually based on a real-life group called the Filthy 13, a unit of soldiers in World War II known for their unconventional methods and rough, tough demeanor. Walker was unaware of this at the time, but after the film, he learned more about the real Filthy 13 and how the story was based on these men who were notorious for their daring tactics in battle. Additionally, Clint talked about how the experience of working with such a star-studded cast including Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, and Charles Bronson, was like a vacation for him, a chance to relax and explore London while working on the film. This experience was a refreshing departure from his intense TV work and allowed him to work in a more collaborative environment where he truly thrived. Yet even after that breakthrough, Walker's career remained more experimental rather than super mainstream. He returned to westerns with More Dead Than Alive, a darker, more reflective take on the genre. While he was compelling on screen, he had mastered the art of conveying emotion through restraint, rather than overt expressions, and not many actors can do that. In 1969, he appeared in 2 comic westerns, Sam Whiskey and The Great Bank Robbery, both of which leaned into humor and ensemble casts. While neither film became a standout success, they demonstrated Walker's adaptability and willingness to experiment, even when the results were uneven. The 1970s saw Walker move fluidly between film and television. He appeared in the ensemble comedy The Finks and headlined several television pilots produced as made-for-TV movies, including Yuma, 1971, Hard Case, and The Bounty Man. But those roles didn't define the trajectory of his life. That depended on something else entirely. Chapter 6: The Accident That Changed Everything. In May 1971, Clint Walker nearly said goodbye to the world well before his time. While skiing at Mammoth Mountain, Walker suffered a catastrophic accident when a ski pole pierced his chest and punctured his heart. Doctors who arrived at the scene couldn't find a pulse. There was no heartbeat. The grim conclusion was immediate. Clint Walker had died. But against all odds, a third doctor arrived and noticed faint signs of life. A pulse too weak to detect with traditional methods, but enough to suggest the possibility of survival. In a desperate move, the doctor performed emergency surgery to repair the damage. Walker was rushed to the hospital, his life hanging in the balance. For hours, no one knew if the actor would survive. The actor himself later opened up about the experience and said that he was aware of being in a spirit-body state at the time. While the world thought he was slipping away, Clint shared that he was more alive and alert than ever before. He didn't feel any pain and wasn't even all that concerned with going back to life, until the doctors rushed him to surgery and resuscitated High M and repaired his damaged heart. To everyone's shock, Walker survived and, remarkably, returned to work just 2 months later. The accident left a deep mark on him, not only physically, but emotionally. It was a turning point that reshaped his worldview and influenced how he would approach life and work in the years to come. Though his career didn't explode in the way some anticipated, Walker's comeback solidified his reputation. However, at the same time, he began to live life in a way that prioritized his privacy. Walker never spoke much about the accident because he didn't want to be seen as a man who had survived an accident. He wanted to be remembered as an actor who returned to his job against all odds. In the years following his recovery, Clint Walker's career continued at a steady pace. He found new avenues in television, including starring in Pancho Villa, 1972, and the cult classic Killdozer, which became a hit on the small screen. He also had roles in Baker's Hawk and the White Buffalo, films that, while not huge box office successes, earned him respect for his versatility. As Walker's career slowed down, he didn't disappear. He simply chose to do things that he loved. After decades of Hollywood success, he sought a quieter existence, finding comfort in the embrace of family, his deep love for the Western genre, and a passion for writing. In many ways, his later years were marked by a peaceful reflection on the life he had built, away from the cameras and the spotlight. Chapter 7: A Quiet Life. Walker's connection to the Western genre never faded. Even after stepping away from acting, Clint Walker continued to contribute to the tradition that had made him a star. In the early 2000s, he formed an unexpected partnership with Western author Kirby Jonas, a friendship facilitated by actor James Drury, best known for his role in The Virginian. Walker and Jonas spent 2 years working together on a storyline Walker had conceived, a tale involving gold and the Yaqui, an indigenous group from the American Southwest and Mexico. The project culminated in the publication of Yaqui Gold, a Western novel that Walker co-wrote with Jonas. Released in 2003, the novel allowed Walker to explore the genre in a new way, as an author rather than an actor. The book wasn't a bestseller, but it left a lasting mark on fans of Western literature. Behind the scenes, Clint Walker's personal life was just as tumultuous as his career. Over the years, he had 3 marriages, each lasting around 20 years. His first marriage was to Verna Garver in 1948. The couple had their daughter, Valerie, born in 1950, whose accomplishments seemed to mirror her father's sense of independence. After his divorce from Verna, Walker married Giselle Hennessy in 1974. Their relationship lasted until Giselle's tragic passing in 1994. Walker never remarried immediately after her death, instead taking time to reflect on their decades-long relationship. He married for a final time in 1997 to Susan Cavallari, and they remained together until his passing in 2018. In his personal life, Clint Walker embraced a lifestyle that reflected his disciplined, no-nonsense approach to the world. He was a pesco-politarian, which means that he abstained from beef but enjoyed fish, chicken, and salmon. This reflected the healthy living habits he maintained throughout his life, especially after his near-fatal skiing accident in 1971. Beyond his diet, Walker held strong political beliefs and was not shy about expressing them. He supported Barry Goldwater in the 1964 United States presidential election, a conservative choice that reflected his personal values and political ideology. His commitment to his own beliefs, however unpopular, was consistent with the rugged individualism that defined his public and private persona. Clint Walker's legacy and his lasting impact on the Western genre are undeniable. Beyond his on-screen heroics, the actor's real-life dedication, professionalism, and strength deserve to be celebrated for years to come. What do you think of his journey? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.